Hi, and welcome to At the Table with Swizzy. I'm your host, Swizzle J, and today I have the amazing Twitch ACR Stormer, streamer, poker player, and international book-selling author, best-selling author, Botlady. Hello, so happy to have you on.
Hello, thank you. Jay, it's wonderful to be here.
Tell the people who you are, what you got going on, real quick.
I have a Twitch stream. We're going on our fourth anniversary next January 2023 will be my fourth year anniversary. And that's pretty much what I've done the last 4 years, besides a short gig commentating some live poker. Basically on Saturday nights, I have a little home game. I'd love to invite you, come ask me anything if you have follow-up questions from the book, this interview, or whatever. Just come hang out. And we're also doing a fundraiser drive for the homeless for Christmas. So I'd love to have you come and help with that as well if that inspires you.
Yes, and I highly recommend coming Saturday nights, especially if you're a poker player. The home game is a lot of fun. I took
Thanks.
second place last week, and it was a lot of fun. So, this book, A Journey of Riches, transform your wisdom wounds into wisdoms. What was the inspiration?
Well, my life. Yeah. Basically, like I just wanted, there's just so much that's happened to me. I feel like I've lived four different lifetimes. I've experienced so many things and just kept like moving forward, one day at a time. And I felt like a lot of people really deal with loneliness, bullying. I
Mm,
see these themes recurring in our society over and over, and it's like an open, festering wound of people hurting each other, that they got hurt, so they hurt someone, and eye for
oh
an eye,
yeah.
and everyone goes blind. So I kind of just want to speak up and just be a beacon to say, like, you don't have to feel that way. For a long time, like, I didn't have the emotional space to even like be a good friend or to give anything emotionally to anyone else. I was in such a low, dark place, and people helped me out of that position to the point I could build up enough stability and emotional state to give back. And so I felt like when I was at that point, like I could now share how I got there and maybe possibly help other people that feel
Oh,
hopeless or lonely or distraught or in the dark, and say, like, you're not alone. There are other people that feel like you. You're needed, you're wanted, there's hope for you. Even if you've messed up, even if your life is a disaster, if you have your health, if you have people that care about you, even if you don't have people that care about you, you can find people
oh,
that will
for
care
sure.
about you. They're out there, you just haven't met them yet. So I'm just here to tell you not to give up, to keep hope in your heart. And I know a lot of people suffer in silence, and I just want to say you don't have to do that. Like, there are people out there that you can talk to that care about how you feel and will help you.
Oh, for sure, for sure. Um, so you mentioned you feel like you've lived many lives from
Yeah.
all your experiences. Let's talk about, because this kind of struck me interesting that you were a Gates student. And for those who don't know, here in California, there's a gifted program. It's an accelerated program that puts, I guess, higher IQ people into position of, I don't know, greater
Yeah.
education
I started
opportunity.
college at 16, so junior year
Yeah.
high school, I was like taking calculus. I had over a 4.0 GPA. I was in pretty much all college classes at that time, at 16. So my junior year of high school was at college, basically.
Did did you feel like you were missing anything, or did you feel like that was where you belonged? Because when I got into college,
Yeah.
I felt that's where I belonged. I didn't fit in high school, but I fit into
I
college.
mean, from the time I could read, I read everything I could read. And now this we're talking before the internet. I'm kind of old. So,
Mm-hmm.
when I was a kid, we had libraries. So I basically lived in the library. I mean, I read every book on science, every book on UFOs, anything I get interested in, I would read the whole section. And I would spend 4 to 5 hours a day after school just reading things I was interested in, reading the encyclopedia, just and I had a photographic memory, so that kind of makes me an annoying friend.
No, I get that as
I was
well.
Google before there was Google, like,
Yeah.
just ask her, she knows, like, yeah. So I was kind of an annoying student. Like the high school teachers didn't really want me there because I was just so far ahead and it was obnoxious. So I actually felt like I was probably ready for a lot more intellectually than I was emotionally, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does. Well, it kind of leads into the fact, because you said you were living with a boyfriend, your mom moved out at 18, so
Yeah,
you're
so my parents got divorced when I was 17.
okay.
I moved with my mom into an apartment. Um, and in the Bay Area, I don't know if you know this, but like rent is insane,
Yeah,
it's,
yeah.
it's really high. It's almost impossible to live on your own. And like, I had been in a car accident, so I wasn't working. I was going to school full time. I had like this crazy back pain all the time. Like it was shooting down my leg and like I was getting numbness and like I
Mm-hmm.
couldn't walk. And they're telling me, there's no reason, there's no physical problem with you. Like they were
Yeah.
doing scan after scan after scan. They was saying like there was nothing wrong with me. But I was on the freeway and I was rear-ended by someone going like 80 miles an hour.
Wow.
And there was like a lumbar bar in the back and it hit me in the lower back and like
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, it just like I don't know if it was like a muscle memory or whatever, but it just like it kept seizing up over and over and over. And they're like, there's no physical reason for this. So I had years of physical therapy because of it. And I was so distraught. I was in so much pain. No one could tell me why. So I wasn't working because of that. And, we're talking before this, someone that was going to school really healthy. I had a job. I was going to the gym all the time. I was exercising. I couldn't do any of the things I could normally do. So at 17, not only was I in a terrible car accident, but my parents got divorced the same year. So I had to move. I was dealing with all the pain, like not allowing me to, live a normal life because I had been working since I was 8. I had a job, like
Mm-hmm.
by the time I was 17, I had like 5 jobs. Like, um, so basically, I had to quit my job. I was still going to school, but when my mom moved out, I was put in a like financial position to pay the rent or be homeless. So I basically had to live with an abusive boyfriend at 18. It took me 2 years to be able to make enough money to like move out on into my own apartment, which was a studio right next to the train track. And it was the cheapest apartment in the Bay Area, and I could only afford, like, I could barely afford all the bills by myself. But at that point, it was like he had 2 DUIs. He was like passing out, blacking out, alcoholic, and like
Wow.
was just like stealing and
Mm-hmm.
like spending money that we didn't have. And you know um it was a really not healthy situation for me to be living in. It was affecting every aspect of my life. And I did want to live with my mom, but like that situation wasn't good either. Like she wouldn't let me move in with her. um there was no one else I could live with, and pretty much like the attitude was, you're 18, for my
Yeah.
whole family, like to figure it out, like you're an adult, so like take care. And so that really made it hard for me to I couldn't get a scholarship because my grades suffered. I was already like, I'm not enough of a minority, like
Mm-hmm.
there wasn't a lot of like programs or help or anything for me. So it was like there wasn't a lot of like people there like feeling sorry for me, giving me a handout. So it was like, I went back to work while I was in pain. So even before like the car accident stuff healed, um, I worked for 2 years while all this like these issues were going on physically. And when I was finally able to move out on my own, it was like such a relief I was so happy. You know, I was still going to school full time. I was dancing like 5 to 6 days a week. Um, I love dancing. So, you know, like salsa dancing, ballroom dancing, like real dancing, you know, dancing. And then sometimes I go to the clubs and dance too, you know, like hip hop and other dancing. So I was pretty active once I felt better and was able to get out on my own. But, you know, to like, if you don't have a degree and you don't have like someone to hand you a job, it was really hard for me
Yeah.
to get a really good job. Like it just even now today, like it's still hard to get a really good job. It, you know, they don't just hand them out,
Yeah.
no
Some.
matter how smart you are.
Yeah. Something people may not realize is there's a lot more um, social services nowadays. Not,
Yeah.
not like they were. Like, it's hard to explain to somebody that, today you can point somebody in a direction to go get help. Or you can point somebody in a direction on where to get help for schooling, healthcare, whatever.
Yeah, yeah. When I had my daughter in 2012, I didn't have health insurance. I applied for it, and they said being pregnant's a pre-existing condition. So I
Oh,
wasn't able to get health insurance. So I had her at home
yeah.
because a hospital birth would have costed a lot more. So you know, I put myself at risk. And the only thing that it helps, that it hurts, is children, women and children, like not get, you know, not having those services. So now that we have, you know, universal health care, at least in California here, you can go, everyone can go get a policy. I know every state isn't the same, but here in California, anyone with a pre-existing condition can still get coverage.
Yeah.
It's
Um,
not, it wasn't like that before. Like people used to go broke because they had these policies that had no cap. So you could lose your whole life savings because basically like there used to be no cap on your insurance. So you it could, you know, they now it's like maybe $100,000 and like you can't spend more than that. You know, like they have caps on how much you have to pay out of pocket. That didn't used to be a thing.
yeah, for sure. I mean,
I know so many people that just went completely destitute because of that.
yeah, well, one of the problems with America is, nobody should go into debt because they got sick or because they got in an accident. And so I
I
think
just
that,
happened to grow up in an expensive place to live, so it wasn't, you know, without help, it was really hard to do it on my own in that place because of just cost of living.
yeah, well, speaking of which, so then you decided to go to Italy? Is that
Yeah,
correct?
so I had been working for a biotech company and they fired me. So they gave me a pink slip and a check, which they used to do that. You know,
Mm-hmm.
they used to give you like a severance check. And I decided that the best idea was to just leave.
To
Took my
take the
money and
check, go.
take the check and spend it all. You know, I was 21 years old. Like, what do you
Yeah.
expect? So, you know,
I
I
expect a 20-year-old to take the check and go spend it.
I don't regret it. I really, you know, I spent all my money and it was a good decision looking back. It was definitely a risk, and it was my family thought I had lost my mind when I told them, but it was like a college semester, so it was like I was a transfer student.
Hmm.
Even though I really didn't study that much, it was, you know, through a program.
Yeah. Um, well, in the book, you mentioned that you got into the party scene.
I,
Uh,
you know, I was dancing a lot when I lived in California, so not much changed when I went to Italy. I was still dancing my way through Italy.
it just all the way through. Um, but you kind of mentioned that this kind of helped you maybe open up. Is that correct?
Yeah,
And
I mean, it definitely like all the wine helped loosen my inhibitions, but a lot of it was like I just ended up meeting like a group of models, and I'm not a model, I'm short, but I was like their sidekick, and we were getting into like VIP areas, backstage, private parties, after hour parties, private homes, and it was crazy. It
Hey,
was I was going places I never thought I would be invited. So, I mean, I don't know how you turn it down, it was crazy. And then I decided to go to Rome, and I go to Rome by myself for 2 weeks, which was crazy. And I ended up staying in a hostel. I ended up seeing Federer play. It was like literally in the parking lot of the hostel was tennis. And then randomly I'm there the 2 weeks, everything is free. So I go to the Coliseum and there's a free concert by Paul McCartney at the
wow.
Coliseum in Rome. So I'm like, I don't know. I just felt like everything I was doing there was just like literally like I don't know if you can feel like you're on a path from God,
Uh
like,
huh.
or whatever. I was like walking where I was supposed to be, and like
And
things that were happening
you're in
were,
tune with the energy of the world, and you're just it's pointing you in the right direction, and you're going, and everything is yeah. That's an
yeah, like
experience like
I
no other.
surrendered to the experience, and a lot of it was scary. I almost got assaulted twice, robbed once, almost.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a fighter, everybody.
I
And
wouldn't test you so.
yeah, I used to carry a pocket knife just because I was like paranoid. So that worked for me. And basically, like, yeah, I mean, it was dangerous. I probably shouldn't have done it, but I had so much fun and it was crazy. And, just a woman traveling by herself in a city like that is probably not very safe. I don't know that I'd recommend it to other people. Like it was probably not like a great like I probably not the greatest decision I ever made in my life. Like I'd take a travel partner if I could have, but you know, I wanted to do something so much that I put aside
Care.
my safety,
Yeah.
Weirdly, this was the scariest thing that happened. The train when I was going there, the train broke down and it was the middle of the night, so they didn't have a repair crew. So I had to spend the night at a train station, freezing cold, and like try to sleep on a bench, like a homeless, like I felt homeless.
Yeah.
And that alone, I was so worried someone was going to come like try to steal my suitcase, or whatever. And there was like no guard, there was no employee. It was like abandoned. It was just me and whoever was on the train, and it was intense. Like I shivered the whole night. I will not forget it. I basically fell asleep on my suitcase. You're gonna have to go through me to get into it. Like it was crazy.
you, you turtled up in a suitcase. That's
I don't know
so.
what to say.
I
Survival instinct kicks in at some point.
mean, do what you got to do. When in Rome, as it
You
goes.
don't plan on your train breaking down. It's just things happen unexpected and you deal with it.
Oh, for sure.
I
So,
felt lucky just to be on the adventure.
oh, I could imagine that must have been crazy.
I could talk about it the whole interview. I won't. I won't. We'll keep it for another interview. Or a book maybe.
Ooh, spoiler alert. So when the dust settles and you have danced your way through Italy and you decide to come back to boring old America, um, what do you do now?
Well, I mean, I had only planned to be there for a semester, so I was there for the 4 month semester, plus I stayed an extra month till my money ran out and I had to come home. And so basically, I came back. I had one more class to take, which was ironically called Logic and Reason. I had to get a credit in this. I already had a 2 year degree in life science, and I couldn't transfer to a 4 year university without more credits. So I had to take
Hmm.
one more class. and I lived with my grandparents during that time. My grandma's 96 and she's still alive, by the way.
Wow,
But I lived with
congrats.
her during that time, and that was really good for me. I felt I got really, like, she was always a big part of my life, but like we got really close during that time. It was funny because she's like, "Oh, we'll find you an apartment." And so she's like trying to help me find an apartment for I'm only needing an apartment for like 2 or 3 months. And every person, she was like, "Oh, I'll go with you." And so we go to this guy, and like he's like, "Yeah, I got a room, and it's only like $400 a month," which was like half of what you normally would pay.
Mhm.
And he was super creepy, like way older than me. I'm like 21, and my grandma's like, "You're not staying here. Like, you're coming up with me. Like, I'm not leaving you alone with this guy. Like, this is the best, like the cheapest apartment." She's like, "Now I know why." Like, he was super creepy. So I stayed with her, and it was pretty nice. Like, then I aced my logic class, by the way, so I was proud of myself for that. And I just kind of I don't know, I just kind of like laid low, danced at home. See, I was living with friends, so I had to be right? I couldn't be crazy out all the time, and just kind of took it easy. And then I transferred up to Humboldt State University, where I got my 4-year degree um, in biology. So my whole thing was like the whole time I had always wanted to go to a 4-year university. Originally, I had wanted to go, on scholarship somewhere like, Stanford, but that wasn't going to happen for me. So I transferred to a state university that I could afford in an area that I could afford. And Humboldt had like the most reasonable rent of anywhere in California. And I had to stay in California like to not pay the out of state
Mhm.
tuition, which is like insane. So
Oh
Humboldt
yeah.
was the most affordable school, and it's beautiful up there. They've got the second best biology program to Berkeley, and I really, really, really like was interested in science. So that is what I studied up there. And basically, my goal for myself was to get a 4-year degree, get a good job, buy a house, hopefully have some kids, like just have some stability in my life.
Yeah, yeah, sounds good. So then from there you meet your first husband, according to the book.
That's true. Yep.
Okay. You mentioned in the book that meeting him, it was a whirlwind relationship. You
Y-
wanna?
Yeah. Yeah. So I mean we met at a poker table, and the first night we met, like we talked 4 or 5 hours, like the whole night. And just like about everything, like spirituality, and we had a lot of the same interests, and like, it was like a magnet. Like you just don't want to be apart from that
Mm-hmm.
person. And I just felt like such a friendship with him. We both kind of had like a void in our life of like that deep connection with someone.
Mm-hmm.
So when it happened, it was so intense.
Yeah. Well, then you mentioned that. Well, uh, things obviously get worse. How long was the process? Slow? Was it quick? Unexpected?
I think it was mostly alcohol, to be honest. Like it really changed his personality when he would drink. And he didn't have very good self-control of like, I could just have like one drink. He would get really, really drunk. And he was 6'5", he was big. He kind of like would forget how strong he was, and it could get scary. So I think that the alcohol changed his behavior, and then he was also bipolar. So he
Mm-hmm.
would not sleep for days at a time and like hallucinate, and
Right.
like he didn't have a routine where he was going to bed and waking up, and a normal routine. So that was like that added some stress. And then also just his interests like were just kind of abnormal, which I think that I was attracted to at first. But I'm also kind of a person that's very I feel it's important to have moderation.
Mm-hmm.
Like you need moderation, and he was very extreme. So I couldn't control him, and like he didn't want to control himself at
Right.
all. So it was too much of extremes that he would go to that really were the issue.
Yeah. I my my son's mother was bipolar, so I can relate to the manic high, the lows, and them not wanting to go get help because they don't feel they're sick.
Right,
Or
like he would sleep for days or be awake for days, and like that,
right.
that would just be fine for him. And I'm like, this is making it like I can't function
Hmm.
because I'm so worried about you. I was so worried about him, like that it made it hard for me to keep my routine. Because when you go to sleep and you wake up and the person's still like awake, it's like very stressful. Like, it's like I'd like to go to bed together and wake up together. And so it really put a strain on our relationship because I'm like, what is he doing when I'm sleeping? And I was just like very paranoid, and for good reason. Now I realize like I probably should have been more paranoid checking up on what he was actually doing. But um, I feel like, yeah, that bipolar. So I've known a lot of people that are bipolar that got medicated, and they say it's the best thing ever. But not everyone that's bipolar wants to be medicated, because when they get on those highs, they feel like really powerful,
Right.
invincible, almost like they could do anything, they could conquer the world. Every random idea and delusion they have is like real to them, and
Mm.
possible, and even if it's completely insane in their own mind, like they feel completely sane. They don't feel like there's anything wrong. In fact, they feel better than normal. They feel
Right.
powerful because of it. So they don't want to give up that high feeling. And it's like the idea of getting medicated would, kind of mellow you out from the highs and the lows, which would make you more normal, able to have a routine and healthier. It's like they fight that because, they want to feel like how they are is normal, even though it's not.
Yeah, that's been my experience as well. Is that she liked being wild and free, but when she hit the down, and you would tell her, that this is the reason why you couldn't talk to her, and she turned to drugs for self medication, not alcohol, but
I mean, I
so
guess it's like when they're on the downside and they realize like they've kind of blown their life up when they were manic. It's like, how do you take responsibility for that? It's like
right.
you want to escape those feelings of responsible so you can get back on the high and then feel great again. You just kind of want to avoid like the down. So it's like they want to medicate the depression, but not the manic. So they self medicate the depression.
Yeah.
And the way they self-medicate it doesn't make it the situation better. It only makes the situation worse because you're alienating the people that care about you and are trying to help you. And you're not listening or communicating with them or really taking to heart what they're trying to say.
Well, you had mentioned to me that you had sought to get him legally um, hospitalized.
Yeah, so I called the police and I said, he's really not well. And they said, well, if we come out here and he's acting normal, we can't take him. Even
Oh.
though I've reported violence, I've reported, issues, like if
Hmm.
they don't witness it firsthand, they can't take someone in unless they want to go.
Oh. Oh. I.
And that's just the rules. So, as his wife, like I literally had no rights whatsoever to help him or myself in that situation. Like I was kind of at his mercy. And his behavior was so out of control. It was really like a horrible feeling that I could do absolutely nothing to help him.
Yeah. I couldn't even imagine. I mean, we had separated and divorced and everything. So when everything got bad for her, I wasn't responsible. I guess. I mean, I was still there, tried to help, but you know, she had moved on, got a husband, and everything else. So it was no longer my issue. So, back to the book. So things take a awful turn for you because at this point, both your father and your husband end up committing suicide. Um,
Yes, so in the same way too. So it was very like emotionally, I was just at my lowest low. Like it was just in a daze, like I'm just kind of going through the motions to try to get through the day, like I was so overwhelmed emotionally. I couldn't, like, people would try to talk to me and I was just so spaced out. I was just so like stunned, and it was just so hard to just really like function. It was a lot to happen all at once, and it was so hard to comprehend, like, A, what happened, B, what am I going to do next? I didn't really have a plan. Like, you don't plan for stuff like this. So it was like just a whole reimagining of my reality.
well, having to come to those terms, looking back, what steps did you take that just you were like, yeah, my advice to people going through the same thing, this is the step I would tell you to take.
I mean, okay, most people will not listen to me, but I'm going to tell them anyway.
Well, nobody wants to hear the truth, but
99% of you guys are gonna hear this and ignore it, even though it's true. And what it is, and this is what the police actually ended up telling me, and this is absolutely true. They said it almost never gets better. When we get calls like this, the next call we get, something worse has happened if the person hasn't left. So they encourage me to leave the situation. And I think the sooner you do it, the better,
mm-hmm,
because if you let it get to a point where I didn't want to leave because, for so many different reasons. I mean, there was so many reasons I didn't want to leave, even though that was what the best thing to do for everyone. It was, I could not bring myself to leave until it was the absolute worst the situation could get. And I wish I had left it the very first years before, when I knew there was an issue, and I just could take a stand then. And I think that he could have gotten help sooner, and we may not have ended up together, but he may still be alive because I had the courage to protect myself from the violence.
oh,
It had been going on for years. So, like, how do you deal with that? It's like, a lot of us, at the first sign of a problem, we want to forgive the person and try to make it better, go to counseling, talk it out, whatever. But with
mm-hmm,
alcohol in the situation, it was like the person that I loved, I didn't even recognize when he was drunk. And so, I had given my husband an ultimatum, like, you stop drinking or I have to leave, because, like, you're hurting me
mm-hmm.
physically. Like, I can't be here for that. So, he promised to stop, but he was doing it in secret. And after he passed, I found it hidden all over the house, like, so much alcohol I didn't even know was there. And it just was like, oh my God, this was going on the whole time. Like, there's, like, I just didn't realize it. So it was like, I shouldn't have given him an ultimatum. I should have just done it.
Just yeah, okay.
And I feel like I allowed it to get to that point. And I allowed whatever boundaries I had for myself to be bent at completely to the point I didn't even recognize who I was or the situation I was in. And I think this can happen to anyone because, like, you love the person, you have a kid together, you're married,
Mm-hmm,
you have all this stuff you're connected together with, like, you know a lot of us would do anything for the person we love. So it's like, even sacrifice my own safety. So it was like, that's not okay. Like, all those things I did, like, allowed it to get that bad too. Like, I have some responsibility for that situation too, because I was there. So it was like, I, even though I wasn't doing all these things, I was allowing it to happen to me. So I have some responsibility for not leaving. So I feel like, I don't know what would have happened if I left years before. He may have got sober, he may not have, but at least there would have been a chance there, a window of opportunity that just didn't happen. Because I think some people, they just need to see, like, there's consequences to the behavior, to get better. Like they have to want to get better. I can't make anyone else want to get better. No matter how much I wanted him to get better, he had to want to get better.
Oh, for sure. For sure.
So all you're doing by staying with someone that's being abusive, either to themselves or to you, is just enabling it. And I know if you love someone, you don't want to hear that you're enabling them. Like, but
No,
you
no, they
are.
definitely don't want to hear
So
that.
my advice is really to do something drastic in your life to make a difference, make a change. You got to make a big change. Little things don't add up to enough of a change. They're not going to help you enough. And
Well, that,
it's and what I'm saying is so hard to do. I already know. If you're listening to this and you're like you're giving me every excuse in the book as to why you can't. But at the end of the day, like you know in your heart that you should. You got to listen to that voice.
well, that's the one thing that comes across, clearly in um, your book is that you gotta you gotta keep pushing. Like no matter what, you gotta find a way. You gotta find a reason, and you gotta keep pushing. And now that you've done that, and you're on a better path, how'd you get to the steps to be on to the path you're on now?
I think it was luck.
Really? You don't think it was just fortitude and
Maybe
stick?
that enough fortitude gets you luck. I mean, I I made so many bad decisions in my life. Like one had to be right. Oh man. I think honestly what it was is I wanted to get better. I wanted to be honest with myself. I wanted to reflect on what had happened. I didn't want to keep repeating it. I went to therapy and I just like kind of got my head screwed on straight and I was able to finally relax. Like something that the editor took out of the book I had written in, but he didn't like it. So he like deleted it out of I
Oh,
agreed to it. Like, fine, you can delete this, but I'll tell
okay.
you what I said that was edited out of the book, and it's this. I had stress sweat for 35 years. Now, if you
Mm-hmm.
don't know what that means, like there's like a smell in your sweat that is when you stress. It's like a hormone you release.
Mm-hmm.
And for 35 years or whatever, my adult life, I had that smell and I thought it was normal. And then finally, like I wasn't in this fight or flight mode. And I finally started to relax and calm down and not have so much anxiety and not have panic attacks. And the PTSD went away and the nightmares went away and everything finally kind of settled. I was like, oh my God, is this how it is to feel normal? I had no idea. My when I was a kid, my parents were always fighting and I just grew up around people screaming and violence and I just thought that was like normal, like this is just how you exist in this mode of fear. And once I kind of like realized physiologically I was responding like that, it was like this aha moment for me, like I finally feel relief, freedom, like peace, all these things I never had. And I didn't know I didn't have them until I had it. And so for me, there was this like, we always focus on the mind and the spirit and all this, but
Mm-hmm.
there's something about the body too that is responding to all these things going on inside you. And you may not even realize like it's affecting you physically, all of these trapped emotions.
Oh, for sure. For sure. I mean, I have that same thing. I'm a very panicky, nervous, stressful person, and it's taken me all these years to kind of let all that stress go. And it's a hard thing to accomplish. It's um if you're in your 20s or 30s, I recommend yoga or
Yes.
meditation, something. Get your mind
Yes.
right. Don't just worry about your body, you know. Worry about both.
Yeah.
Um so after all of this, um what what is the future for Bot Lady? What do you have going on? What
I mean, I'm open, if anyone wants to collab with me. hit me up on Twitter at Botlady4. Come check out my twitch.tv/Botlady. Come talk to me. I'm planning on surprise. Here's an announcement. We're gonna have a sequel to the book next year, so I'm gonna be publishing again with John Spender and A Journey to Riches. So we're gonna be talking about a different topic, but more stories from my life.
Oh,
And that'll be summer 2023. And I'm also going to be publishing a companion pamphlet with practical, actionable advice to help you to get to where you want to be
oh,
that
that.
goes along with the book.
Do you have a set time for that? You have an idea?
Summer 2023. It'll be released together.
Okay, okay, that's very interesting. Be willing, I mean, ready. Oh, I will be looking
You
forward to that.
Great. I'm glad you're excited as me. I've already started writing it, so I'm actually feeling really inspired, and I think it's going to help a lot of people, and I can't wait to share it with you all.
Well, one of my questions was gonna be, in reading what you wrote in this, was there things you wanted to cover more in depth? And is
Yeah.
this is what the next part is gonna be?
Yeah, yeah. So I mean, I think I could write forever. I don't know. I really enjoy it. I always was kind of like I'm dyslexic and, I've just always really just liked numbers more than writing, but I always have felt like it pours out of me when I'm ready. The process for writing is interesting for me. It's like I do a lot of brainstorming, thinking, and then like I'll feel inspired. So it's not like every day I'm writing, but every day I'm brainstorming. And then when I feel like writing, it's just like I just feel like it's channeled just straight out of me, and it's really intense. And so for me, it's I love it, and it's like I think it's my calling, so I'm just gonna keep doing it.
Well, I mean, I mean, your first work is fantastic. There's no reason why you should stop. I think you have a lot to offer and to give to this world. And speaking of
Thank you.
which,
That means a
you know,
lot to me.
well, speaking of which, I mean, I know you, from your streams and not, and you're doing a wonderful thing. You're doing a donation for the homeless. You want to clue the people in
Yeah.
on that?
Yeah, so I mean, I was homeless myself temporarily, and I just feel so much compassion. It can happen to anybody, and I just want to give a little bit of hope and a little bit of holiday cheer. And to the local shelter, I'm going to be putting together some little gift bags for the holidays. My kids are going to help me do it. So you're not only giving a gift to the homeless, you're giving a gift to my kids because they're learning about how important it is to give to the homeless. And it's such a passion of mine because you can directly affect and help people that really need it. There's a lot of people don't realize this. There's a lot of gatekeeping to help. So like there's a lot of money for homeless, but they have to like jump through all these different
Mm,
hoops to get it. So this is a way to just give directly to the people most in need without having some kind of hoop they have to jump through, just something like really from the heart. And I think that is the best way to do it. So I'm just offering an opportunity if that's something that inspires you to give through me. And I think that giving back consistently has just always made me feel like better about myself. And I think there's nothing wrong with that. Like if giving makes you feel good, like just you should keep giving, you know? So selfishly I do it because like I would just hope that if somebody else was in the same position and they could help, like that they will. And if they can't, like, and they need help, I hope that people are out there helping the people that really need it.
yeah, I agree. which is why I personally am going to be donating $50 to
Thank you.
this cause. And you should contact her on Twitter at Botlady4.
That's so
Uh,
exciting.
you can DM her for information on how you can donate it as well. Um, one last thing, if there's anything you want to scream or graffiti, what would it be?
The guy from the Water Boy, you can do it. That guy, I love him. It's just like you can't say it without thinking it in the accent, and it's just like the silly, goofy. He was always there, just like cheering him on. You can do it. Like that's me. That's like I'm your cheerleader. Everybody, I'm like you can do it. Just got to believe in yourself. That's the hardest part.
Well, that's the definite takeaway from this is people, you got to believe in yourself. You got to trust your
Think for
instincts
yourself.
and go for it. Take
Think for
chances.
yourself.
Yeah. Do what's best
Think
for
for
you.
yourself. Yeah, a lot of people are out there living their life for someone else. That live it for yourself.
Okay, so this has been the first episode of At the Table with Swizzy. I want to thank Bot
Thank
Lady.
you.
Thank you so much. I appreciate this. Please check her out Saturday night, Twitch, at twitch.tv/botlady. Saturday, the home game. It's gonna be lit. Show up.
Yeah, it's fun. It's way less serious than this.
Oh, for sure.
Come ask me anything. I may not answer, but you can ask.
Okay, come check her out this Saturday at 8 p.m. Eastern. I
8
mean,
p.m. Pacific,
Pacific. 8 p.m. Pacific, 11 Eastern.
California.
All right.
Yep.
Thank you so much, Bot Lady.
Thank you. We'll see you there. Appreciate
Bye.
it.